How was that? It was fun, right? But as always, let's go through the solution together. You can see here I've got a blank Visual Studio Code text editor open. The only thing I have is I've got this cat JPEG. That's it, I've done nothing else. So let's get started. The first step, of course, is I have to create a new file called index.html. Let's set up a very basic HTML template. And I'm even going to omit the head and all of that. Remember in part 1 of this whole series, when we started learning about the DOM, we learned that the DOM automatically fixes certain HTML errors, including the fact that here we haven't put a head section. So I'll just omit that for simplicity's sake. In the body element, I want an h1 tag that just tells the user what to do, and that is click image. Very simple. Second thing I want to do is I want to actually insert this image into the page. We know the source is in our root directory, which is called cat JPEG. And the image like this isn't quite the right size. I just want to condense it a little bit, otherwise it's going to be too large. I just want to define its width as 300 pixels and its height as 200 pixels. We can delete alternative text. We don't care about search engine optimization for now. And then I also want to add an ID of image, just so we can always identify this image. And then remember, under the image, when it's clicked, we want that text displayed. So I just want to include some line breaks here, just so it looks nice when we do that. And at this point, our HTML is done. If we open up Live Server, there we go. There's our cute little image. How awesome. But of course, if I click this, nothing happens. We haven't defined anything dynamically yet, have we? So let's do that now. Let's go back to our text editor. And how do we do this? Well, the starting point, as you already know, is to include these script tags. And now let's do step 1, and that is we have to grab our image, because we're going to be referencing it later. How do we do that? Well, as always, we define a JavaScript variable. Here I'm just going to call it image. We're going to access our document object. On that, there's a method called getElementById, and we know the ID is image. So there we go. We've literally retrieved our image from the DOM. That's step 1. Step 2 is going to be grabbing our div elements. Oh, you know what? I haven't included our div element yet, have I? My bad. So here, let's include a div element. Let's just have an empty div with an ID of, I don't know, content, because that's where we're going to insert our text. So let's get back to step 2, and that is grabbing that div element. We do the same thing. Let's just say let div content be assigned to the value of our document, getElementById, and we had an ID of content. Whew, we are cruising through this, but I think you know this by now. That's why I'm going quite quickly. Step 3 is what? Do you remember? That's right. We need to attach our event listener. And all we do for that is we're attaching our event listener to the image, because we're waiting for a click event. So we grab our image on every element in our page, including this image object. We have access automatically to various properties and methods provided to us by the DOM API. The one we're interested in is the add event listener method. And of course, it takes 2 arguments. The first one is the event we want to listen for, which in this case is the click event. And then we have to define our event handler. And let's just call it display text. So there we go. And this leads us on to the 4th and final step, and that is defining our event handler. So we can use a JavaScript function keyword. We've called it display text. And the beef of our code is within these curly braces. We know this. And you can see how easy and intuitive it becomes once you understand the basics of what's going on, of what's happening. And this last step is very simple. All we have to do is grab that div element we defined in step 2 and add text to it. So we called it div content. We want to manipulate its text content property, and we want to assign that to the value of I've been clicked. Woohoo! I hope this has worked. So let's go to the browser. You can see here an empty page. If I click this cat, boom! How awesome is that? We just did it together. I hope you had fun. I hope you're learning a ton. But as I mentioned before, this is only the first challenge. And yes, it's also the easiest challenge. I want us to start getting a bit more advanced now. So without further ado, let's jump into the second challenge.